Hi, my friends. Welcome to Inside the Minds of Authors. I'm DC Gomez, your host, and also an indie author. I'm thrilled you're joining me today for another fun interview with a passionate author. We're going to kick off this show with an exciting reading, so let's get started.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline E. Smith. I'm an independent author from Dallas, Texas. And today I thought I would read an excerpt from my first book in my paranormal series called Cemetery Tours. It's about a young man. He can see and talk to the dead. He's tried his whole life to keep it a secret. There's a little bit of romance, a little bit of suspense, and lots of ghost hunting. So without further ado, this is an excerpt from Cemetery Tours. He'd seen them for as long as he could remember. They'd never scared him, really. When he was younger, he hadn't known that there was anything different about them. By the time he was old enough to figure out that no one else could see them, he was also old enough to realize that being dead didn't turn people into monsters. It just meant that most of them were lonely. This guy scared him. He was tall, almost as tall as Michael, who towered above most people at 6'2", and muscular, something that Michael couldn't boast. His dark hair was buzzed short like an army crew cut, and he wore dark navy jeans, a gray t-shirt, and an old black jacket. As intimidating as his physical appearance seemed, however, nothing compared to the fury and repulsion with which he stared at Gavin Avery. "Michael?" Kate's voice snapped Michael out of his stupor. "Are you all right?" "Yeah, fine." He wasn't fine, though. His voice had gone hoarse, the same way it always did whenever he tried to choke out a lie. He cleared his throat and assisted Kate and Gavin setting the mattress against the wall. No matter how he tried to convince himself otherwise, he could feel the stranger's eyes boring into the back of his neck. Although he didn't think the ghost had noticed him staring, he didn't want to draw any sort of attention to himself. This was the reason he never complained about the strange noises or feelings of discontent that plagued the other residents of Building 17. He'd always been a terrible liar, and anyone observing him too carefully would realize that when he said he had no explanation for the weird things that happened, he wasn't telling the truth. Once ghosts figured out that he could see them, they followed him home. Over the years, he'd gotten better at ignoring them, tuning them out, but there was always the occasional slip-up. He'd respond to an otherwise unheard voice, or accidentally make eye contact with someone who'd grown accustomed to being invisible. That was when the trouble started. Michael had learned the hard way that nothing good came from interfering in the affairs of the afterlife. He'd always been careful not to let anyone know what he could see, but everyone from his classmates to his own mother knew there was something off about him. Their suspicions were somewhat confirmed after he was arrested as the suspect in a murder investigation at the beginning of his senior year of high school. The charges were quickly dropped, but still the damage had been done. Now, whenever spirits followed him home, he ignored them. This was frustrating for all parties involved, but especially for the ghosts. They knew he could see them, but when he didn't acknowledge them again, they grew agitated. Some of them went crazy, throwing pots and pans around or heaving books off of shelves in desperate attempts to get his attention. They usually gave up and moved out after a week or so of being ignored. But some of them, the more annoying ones, tended to linger. Some acted out of spite, some out of boredom. Some flat out refused to move on for reasons that Michael could never figure out. Maybe they were waiting for someone, or maybe they were scared of crossing over. Michael could accept that. Still, he would have preferred they not make his apartment building their halfway house. Thinking back to everything Kate had told him about Gavin, his mysterious ailment, and even the break-in, Michael knew he should have realized that those were the products of a haunting. He'd experienced the same symptoms of dizziness and exhaustion on multiple occasions. Spirits thrived on energy. It was how they moved heavy objects or manifested themselves to those who otherwise wouldn't be able to see them. They took this energy from any source they could find. Electricity, radio waves, even the living. Especially the living. Michael had always been particularly susceptible to their attacks. He had a theory that since his mind was already so open to spirits, it made it easier for them to drain his energy. He wasn't sure if that was what was happening or if all the physical exertion was finally catching up with him. But all of a sudden, he felt dizzy and lightheaded. He broke into a cold sweat, and without warning, the ground began to tilt. The end.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Minds of Authors. I have with me today the fabulous Miss Jacqueline, and we just had this incredible reading into the paranormal world that I'm so thrilled and can't wait to get you into this book. So tell us, Miss Jacqueline, How did this book come to life? What inspired you?
I have always loved the paranormal and ghost stories. When I was a kid, my mom wouldn't let me watch Dumbo because she thought it would make me cry, but I was totally allowed to watch Dracula or like America's Most Haunted. So
I love it.
I know. So I've always loved ghost stories, Halloween, anything creepy. But then in 2010, I suffered a personal loss and I actually started writing it to make myself feel better. It just sort of evolved. I started watching the series on TV called Ghost Adventures, and that inspired the paranormal investigating aspect of the series. I also fell in love with Matthew Gay Gubler, who plays Spencer Reed on Criminal Minds. And I'm like, ooh, he's my main character. So he's who I envisioned for my main guy, Michael Sinclair.
Ooh, that is an awesome connection. I like.
Yeah.
So this is a series. How many books do you have in this series?
So far, I have 4 in the series. There will be a 5th one. I haven't started writing it yet, though, because it's going to hurt and I don't want to.
Oh, you're in that stage. It is that book.
I am at that stage. Whenever I tell people that, people are like, oh no, is someone going to die? It's not that kind of hurt. It's like a nostalgia kind of hurt, I guess. I don't know. But it's going to be emotional.
It is emptiness syndrome. I try to explain this to people. It is your baby's moving on and you're going, I just want to hold on to you so tight, but I understand you're there.
Yeah, I really am. So I'm working on 3 other books at the moment. And then I have, 2 others that I want to start. And none of them are the 5th Cemetery Tours book. So I just need to get it all together and get them out.
You have a huge compilation of work coming up that is amazing. And we're going to get to that soon. So I'm not going to spoil us. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
All right.
So tell us, when did you start writing?
So I've actually been writing for fun my whole life. I have like this little series of like Disney books that I put together when I was like in preschool. And then in high school, I started writing Harry Potter fan fiction. That's actually what really got me into the world of serious writing was fan fiction. Then it was 2009 and I was a junior in college. I was really sick with a sinus infection. And so I spent my entire spring break on the couch just reading a bunch of romance novels. And I found myself thinking, hey, I could do this. And I really just never looked back. So I guess 2009 was when I realized, hey, I think I want to give this a shot.
You have an anniversary of a decade last year.
I
and that is huge.
It was pretty wild. Not once since that day have I thought, oh no, I don't want to do this anymore. It's kind of neat to find something that you really love that much and to be able to do it.
And I look back and I question it. This is where you're supposed to be. This is your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So when you were putting this book together, did you have a message that you had in mind? Or was it just this whimsical idea that came to you?
I actually had the second book in mind before I even had the first book. I wrote the first book so I could write the second book. And it's just continued to evolve. I love creepy and I like to scare people. But at the same time, Cemetery Tours, I wrote it to give myself hope and comfort. And I think that's the real point of it.
This is an amazing way of bringing hope and love and into the world through a narrative that most people look so grim. So the fact that you brought this in, that is beautiful.
Thank you.
And I know you write in multiple genres.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So I started out with Cemetery Tours because that was just always my go-to, I guess. Like I said, I love the paranormal. I grew up loving Harry Potter. And even though Harry Potter isn't really horror or anything, it still has ghosts. It has vampires a little bit. It has werewolf. I guess paranormal and creepy was just kind of my default at the time. And then in 2014, a friend of mine said, hey, you should do National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. And I said, oh, I don't know. I don't like competitions, but she talked me into it. And I decided, I want to write something lighthearted with no dead people. And that's how I started writing Boy Band, which is my young adult series. And that one actually is complete. Because even though I really enjoy the creepy and the ghost and cemeteries, I also really love the 90s boy band and Disney Channel.
That is awesome. I like the fact that you write in different audiences as well.
Thank you.
So you have a young adult and you have an adult. So for this book specifically, who's your target audience?
I wrote it for new adults But my characters range from like 24 to 27. Goodness, how old was I in 2010? I was 22 when I started writing it. But I have taken it to young adults and teen book fests. Book Fest by the Bay, which you and I attended.
Yes.
Which is awesome. We love Teen Book Fest by the Bay. I went to them with boy band, but they were like, actually, we like cemetery tours. Can we have that one? So that was when I first kind of realized, oh, I guess cemetery tours could appeal to teenage audiences as well. There's really nothing too bad in them. Maybe a few words.
And it's probably not something they haven't heard before. So I'm pretty sure it's very age appropriate.
Exactly. Even in my trashy romance novel, I don't use any language really.
So when you're thinking of creating your characters and your world, what inspires you most of the times?
If I have a crush on a cute guy.
Oh, that is so cute.
I mean, it's that much true. Now with cemetery tours, like I said, I started writing it to help myself feel better and to give myself some hope that the loss that I suffered was actually my cat. It was just like a way to give me hope that he was still with me. But yeah, what really, really got it going was when I discovered like Matthew Gay Goobler, and I kind of finally had a muse. I had someone that I could watch in my head act out what I had going on. With boy band, it wasn't like a crush really, but I watched One Direction music video the night I started writing it, and I thought, oh, they're so cute. I bet they'd be fun to hang out with. And growing up, I mean, I had a lot of celebrity crushes. I was obsessed with Hanson back in the day. And I realized that like being friends with like a celebrity, a pop star is kind of book I would have wanted to read in high school.
That is the kind of stuff that motivates any teenager.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm 32 years old and I'm like, I'm still a teenager.
You have a teen heart. That is beautiful.
Apparently, it's stuck in the 90s hardcore.
It's all good. Yep. In your writing career, what has been your biggest challenge?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. I think this is for a lot of indie authors has been marketing and just learning to get myself out there. It's difficult because we're writers. My brain does not. It's had to learn all the business aspects of this. It's had to learn all of the marketing and the self-promotion. You just want to write your books. You just want to love your characters. And yeah, getting out there and saying, hey, read this. Hey, write me a review. It's difficult, especially for those of us who are introverted by nature.
I think most writers are introverted by nature.
I think
like
we
the
are
fun
too,
part
yeah.
is writing.
Exactly. Like that's what we want to do. And all this other stuff, it's like we have to learn and adapt. I tell people whenever I go to book events or anything that they're meeting business Jackie. They're not meeting real Jackie. Business Jackie is very outgoing and she can talk for a while as long as she knows what she's supposed to be talking about. But then you get me at home and it's like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to talk to people. I just want to sit with my blankie and my cat and watch Nailed It on Netflix.
I think we all have that. I think that's the part that we all have to transition. And we do have to learn to have that business hat. I like how you put it, and be able to step out there. So I've seen you in cons, I've seen you in book signings, and you're amazing. So your business hat is working.
Thank you. So are you.
So you have been writing for 10 years and plus. So you have a lot of experience that you can share. What do you do to overcome writer's block?
Oh, that's a good question. I have something that I call it the Chapter 7 curse. For some reason, every time I hit Chapter 7, it's like I hit a wall. So what I do, whenever I get an idea for a story, I make a playlist on my iTunes. I should probably get Spotify. I know that's like what all the cool kids are doing, but no, I still have iTunes.
It's all good. I do
okay,
too.
Good. I put together like a writing soundtrack that serves like, if I listen to a certain song, it helps me to visualize better or to capture really the emotions of what I want a scene or my characters to convey. And I also make a secret Pinterest board with actors who I envision as the characters, with setting. I love characters and setting are my two favorite things about writing because I love scenery. I love beautiful places. I'll either turn to my iTunes or I'll turn to my Pinterest boards, or say if I'm writing cemetery tours, and like I said, Matthew Gay Goobler is kind of my inspiration for Michael, I'll turn on a Criminal Minds episode and just watch him and be like, oh, remember how much you love him. Think of a story for him to act out.
Those are amazing and very practical things to do that you can put anytime and you can do them anywhere. So I like that. I like the practicality of it. I was like, okay, that makes sense. In your career, when it comes to your writing world, how will you define success for you?
I mean, I get to do something that I love, and I've gotten to meet so many amazing people because of it. In my mind, I'm already successful just because I was brave enough to do it. I mean, when I first thought of it, or when I first realized, hey, I think I want to write books, I didn't know anything about publishing. I never thought that I could design a cover for a book. I never imagined getting to meet the people that I've gotten to meet you. I've gotten to meet our dear friend, Miracle Austin. I got to meet Jonathan Mayberry, who is just amazing. You know, if you had told me 10 years ago, I guess 11 years ago now, just how many adventures I would have gotten to have thanks to my books, I don't know if I would have believed you.
I think that's the definition absolutely of success is doing what you love and enjoying the process. Because sometimes I think we get lost in the business side of it.
We absolutely do. And that was the part that almost overwhelmed me when I first started. I went to, people ask me how I got started. And the truth is I went to the library and I checked out every book on independent publishing I could find. My dad helped me a lot. He's a big business brain, which, I didn't inherit any of that, but he helped me a lot with the business side. And I remember one night just sitting and staring at all my notes and thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this. This is just too hard. This is scary. And my dad was like, well, you can either do it or you don't do it. And I was like, oh, I want to do it. So I overcame that fear, but it was a lot to learn, but I'm really, really proud of myself that I was able to learn it.
Okay, you mentioned something, fear. How many times do we get stuck in the fear?
Oh, so much. And self-doubt is like another big thing. I remember the first time I got a 1-star review and I cried and I called my sister. She was at college at the time. She's my best friend. I called her and I told her what they'd said. And she basically said the same thing that my dad said to me. It was, well, you can either let them win and you can quit or you can keep writing. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I really want to keep writing. She goes, okay, there you go.
That is powerful. It is powerful to have those cheerleaders in your corner, but I like the fact that they're practical.
Yeah, they're very much like, well, you can feel sorry for yourself. And I think, it's okay to feel bummed out if you get a bad review. I mean, no one likes to see that. But at the same time, you have to remember J.K. Rowling gets bad reviews too. And she wrote Harry Potter. And Harry Potter is the best thing ever.
That's when you realize every book's not for everybody. Because when you can tear down Stephen King, you're like,
right,
okay,
right. Like I had a friend recommend a book to me. She was like, this is my favorite book. I love it. It made me cry. You're going to be obsessed with it. And I read it and I hated it. I mean, I don't want to use the word, I hate to use that word, but oh my God, I couldn't get through it. The relationship in it was very toxic. It was just not the book for me. And so I felt really bad telling her, yeah, I didn't care for this much.
Talking about books.
Yeah.
Tell me, what is your favorite
Oh my
book?
goodness, I have so many. I love the Harry Potter series. I love A Ring of Endless Light by Madeleine L'Engle. It has dolphins and a girl who's a writer. So I'm like, oh my God. A recent book that I really, really love is Waiting for Tom Hanks by Carrie Winfrey. It's a girl and she is waiting for her Tom Hanks, from all the 90s rom-coms You've Got Mail or Sleepless in Seattle. She is convinced that her Tom Hanks, this great, amazing guy, is out there. She does not expect it to be this popular kind of heartbreaker actor. Oh my God. It just has everything that I love. It has 90s references. It has Tom Hanks. It has the normal girl celebrity guy trope, which I am just a sucker for. And on top of all of that, the main guy is obsessed with Frasier. And Frasier is like my favorite show of all time, besides Stranger Things. So this book was written for me.
Somebody had your mind as a target audience.
Oh, yeah.
That is amazing.
Those are the books that I really, really... I mean, there are so many books that I could keep going on about, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Do you have an author that has inspired you?
Meg Cabot. Oh my
Really?
gosh, growing up, I was obsessed with The Princess Diaries. And after that, I read every single young adult series that she wrote. When I write my young adult or my romance, she's who I really try to emulate. I love her writing. I love how real her characters are. She writes what's going on in characters' heads. And I'm kind of thinking, wow, that's exactly what goes on in my head. Her writing is very relatable.
That is a beautiful thing. A lot of the times we created these characters that sometimes people don't connect with. So when you meet a writer that can do it, that is beautiful and powerful.
And also she loves the ocean and cats. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love the ocean and cats too. Meg Cabot, why are we not best friends?
That's a really good question.
Right?
Out of all your series, do you have a favorite
it's
one?
So hard. I love all my books so much. I will always have big place in my heart though for Cemetery Tours, just because it was my first book. It was the one I pour my heart and soul into everyone, but it was the one I wrote personally for me to help me. I don't know. I just love those characters like they're my best friends, and it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, how when you don't write them, when you're not writing them, you miss them.
I have found out I have other author friends who
Mm-hmm.
are in the same boat, and they have that feeling of like, I miss them. And I'm like, I am so happy that's a normal feeling for all of us because they become our
Yeah. Oh, I
family.
once listened to a song that was like kind of sad and sentimental, and I like pictured my characters in it, and I started crying.
That's when you realize you have a connection with your
Yeah.
family, is that you cry for things
Mm-hmm.
that happen to them.
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm so scared to write the fifth book, because there's going to be crying.
Welcome to the world of final books and series
Yeah.
of the ones you love.
And see,
It's
what's
going to
funny is
hurt.
I wrote the last
Yes.
book in the boy band series, and they feel like my family too. But that's such a fun, lighthearted series that it was actually kind of easy to write it. I also have this thing where I will never say that I'm 100% done with the series. Like I have an idea, I have another idea for the boy band characters, even though right now I have no further plans for future Cemetery Tours books besides the fifth one. I'm not saying I never will again. I won't revisit them again. Like I have an idea possibly for a prequel starring my ghost hunter Luke Rayner. Now that's far down on the list at the moment, but you know, you never
You never know.
exactly.
Don't
I
close
never
that
close the
door.
door on characters.
Well, I can tell you one of my favorite authors,
Mm-hmm.
Kim Harrison, actually finished her
Okay.
Hollow series. And this year she announced, hey, we have another book. And I was like, we do? Really?
Isn't
Oh
that
my God. And everybody went, what? It's been like almost 3 to 4 years since the last book. And she's like, yeah, we're doing another one. I'm like, I
Isn't
love
that awesome?
you.
See, my Cabot did the same thing. She has, with two of her series, actually, she has the Princess Diary series and the Mediator series, which is not as well known, but it should be because it's amazing. It's about a girl who can see and talk to the dead. Oh my gosh, wow. A couple years ago, she not only put out an adult follow-up for the Princess Diary, she also did one for the Mediator series. And I just about had a fangirl heart attack. I was so excited. And I had no idea she was planning on bringing back the Mediator characters. And it was just such a treat because I love them so much.
Those are the best ones. We started talking a little earlier about projects
Yeah.
that you got going on. Tell
Okay,
us about
so
it.
the main one I'm working on right now is called Trashy Suspense Novel. I have a trashy romance novel. And so now I thought, oh, okay, I'll just continue with the trash series. They're not connected at all. There's absolutely no connection except for the name and the way they're written. And I don't want to give too many details just yet because I don't like giving too many details about books until they're written, and I'm only about 40,000 words in at the moment. I can tell you it takes place in a small town, a small mountain town, because with suspense novels, I'm always like, what's the creepiest setting I can think of? And it's like cold, snow, and isolated. That's what I'm going
That would
for.
do it.
It's loosely inspired, very, very, very loosely inspired by my love for Stranger Things. Like, there's no Demogorgons, there's no cute kids, but like my main guy, I envision kind of like a Hopper because I love David Harbour. Yeah.
I like where you're taking us with this. So when do you think this one's coming
That's a
out?
question that my sister / my manager would love to know. I don't know. I'm very ambitious and I'm always like, yeah, it'll be out by this summer. And it's like, I don't know. Okay, I'm just going to say by the end of the year for sure.
So, if you had one advice to give an aspiring author, what would it be?
Don't give up. When I realized I wanted to be a writer, I was a junior in college and I ended up going to grad school just so I could give myself a little more time to write before I headed out into the real world. But whenever someone would ask me, oh, so what do you want to do? And I'd say, I want to write. They'd go, no, what do you want to do for money? I felt like I had a lot of wonderful encouragement, but I was also met with a lot of doubt and a lot of discouragement. There's always going to be either someone else or that nagging voice in the back of your own head saying, this is a waste of time, you're never going to get anywhere, and you just don't listen to it. Do not listen to it. Just keep writing. If it's what you love, do it, because you can do anything.
I love that. And it's powerful and is appropriate. And sometimes might not be the people around us. It might just be the voices in our head all the time. It's those demons going, you're not really supposed to be there. You
or
shouldn't be
you've been
trying
working
that.
at this so hard for so long, maybe, you're not where you thought you would be. But at the same time, so many wonderful, wonderful things have happened. So any kind of doubt that's there, you just got to not listen to it. So many people have dreams that, they think, oh, it's never going to come true. I might as well not even try. But like, you have to try. If you don't try, then it's definitely not going to come true. But if you try, at least you have a chance.
You never know where you're going to reach if you never tried.
You never know.
Powerful, and sometimes we forget it. So I love that you reminded us. So, are you ready? We're going to jump into our lightning round. These are fun, quirky. Don't think too much on it. Whatever comes to your mind, just let it flow. Are you a left Twix or right Twix kind of girl?
I mean, both, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Morning bird or night owl?
Oh, yeah. I'll stay up till 4. I won't. Last night, I went to bed at 2, so I'd be able to wake up for this interview. And that was at 2 o'clock. That is early for me. It's funny because my mom and I are night owls. We can stay up forever. My dad and my sister, they're in bed by like 9 on the dot.
I can totally relate with her. Please tell her I feel her pain. Are you ready for this one? Fruit or veggie?
Fruit.
Okay. So this one is so up your alley. I don't know what you're going to do. If you could be any Disney princess, who will you be?
Okay. I'm torn between 2 because I love Ariel. She is my girl. I grew up with her thinking she was my best friend. But honestly, I love Princess Kida / Queen Kida, actually, from Atlantis. I would probably go with Kida, actually, because first of all, she is an absolute badass. I mean, I'm not at all. I can't kick people to the ground in a bikini, but I wish I could. I wish I could fight like her, and I wish I could stand up and be strong like her. And also, she gets the best prince. I mean, Milo Thatch is a dreamboat because he's so smart. He is like so cool with Kida being this awesome warrior queen. I love Kida and Milo.
This is for you, and you are a 90s kind of girl, so I'm kind of curious what you're going to tell us. If you could pick one song to describe your personality, what would it be?
There is this song called Wonderful by Gary Go. I first heard it actually on a commercial for a dolphin documentary, but I really love it. And it's a song I listen to whenever I need to pick me up. It's great. I love it.
Where can our listeners find you?
www.windtrailpublishing.com. That is my independent publishing company's website. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but you can also find all my books on Amazon and on Kindle.
It has been such a pleasure to have you. And for all of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us inside the Minds of Authors. Stay tuned for next week and another amazing interview. Thank you, everybody.
Woo!